Cameron, the scheming and evil mastermind, is planning a vicious plot to frame Daniel as Heather's killer. After trying many times to find a way to get revenge on Daniel, Cameron realizes the perfect opportunity has come when Heather suddenly passes away. Thinking that no one can take responsibility better than Daniel, who has suffered a lot and is grieving his loss, Cameron decides to use this pain to frame Daniel as the criminal. In Cameron's mind, poisoning Daniel could be the perfect next step. Daniel, who once fought him, is now at his weakest after Heather's death. Cameron believes that no one will suspect him, and all fingers will point to Daniel, a husband or boyfriend, who is always the first suspect in such cases. But what the audience did not expect was the reversal of the situation. As Cameron nears his goal, Sharon, who had been in a relationship with Daniel, takes advantage of the situation to make Daniel look like the real culprit. Sharon has experienced pain and loss, and knows how painful it is to be blamed. But now, faced with a choice between Daniel and herself, Sharon knows she must decide, either let Daniel take the blame or face handcuffs and prison herself. In Cameron's mind, framing Daniel is worth it, not only because he believes Daniel should pay for what happened, but also because Sharon has spent much of her life grieving over the death of her daughter Cassie. Cameron reasons that Sharon is used to suffering, and now it's Daniel's turn to suffer. However, Sharon hesitates. She can't ignore Daniel's suffering. Although he may be a suspect in Heather's murder, he is still a friend, someone who was important in her life. In addition, Sharon knows that Daniel has a great responsibility, Lucy, his daughter. If Daniel is convicted and sent to prison, Lucy will be left alone. This makes Sharon hesitant to make a final decision. Cameron, meanwhile, does not think about Lucy at all. He insists that the spoiled child will be fine. He even suggests that Lucy can be sent back to school in Portugal, where she can continue her life without Daniel's presence. For Cameron, framing Daniel is inevitable. He has the whole plan mapped out and is determined to carry it out at all costs. Cameron begins to foresee the scene where Daniel will be sent to prison, and Sharon, the woman he once loved, will be free without any responsibility. He envisioned Daniel locked up while Sharon got away with it, and he couldn't help but feel satisfied with his perfect plan. However, Sharon wasn't an easy pawn to manipulate. She decided to sneak into Daniel's penthouse, with the goal of planting some incriminating evidence. In the heat of the moment, Sharon knew she had to act quickly and carefully to avoid detection. She found Heather's blood-soaked handkerchief and carefully placed it in Daniel's closet. This would be the perfect evidence to make him the prime suspect. But no plan is perfect, and Sharon soon realized that planting the blame on Daniel wasn't as simple as she thought. The evidence she tried to hide might lead the police back to check Daniel's apartment. If Sharon accidentally left any traces of herself, she might be exposed. Although the original plan was to frame Daniel and frame him as a murderer, Sharon could not escape the guilt. Not only was she putting her old friend in danger, but she was also gambling with her own life. Could she continue with this plan without being discovered, or would she end up falling into the net of the law that Cameron had set up all along? In the following days, the situation became more complicated as the police began to investigate Daniel's apartment more closely. Although Daniel was unaware of Cameron and Sharon's plot, he felt uneasy about what was going on around him. He recalled his last moments with Heather, and the pain of loss weighed heavily on his mind. Daniel could not imagine that a sinister plot was being set up to get him behind bars. Cameron continued to watch from afar, believing that his plan was going smoothly. He smiled as he imagined Daniel being handcuffed and taken to prison. But Cameron doesn't know that his careful calculations could backfire. Sharon, with her complex psychology and loyalties, could become an unpredictable factor in this game. How will the story end? Will Daniel be charged with murder? Will Sharon continue her plot, or will she eventually be caught? Y&R Spoilers reveal they are drawn into a whirlwind of secrets, intrigue, and complicated relationships when Heather, a powerful and mysterious woman, dies under suspicious circumstances. Her death not only leaves Daniel and Lucy devastated, but also sparks a wave of suspicion and speculation from their loved ones and friends. At Heather's memorial service, Sharon, a woman usually known for her calm and collected demeanor, offers her sincere condolences to Daniel and his daughter, Lucy. However, her words of comfort quickly turn awkward when Sharon begins to question the cause of Heather's death. Her seemingly innocent questions begin to touch on things that perhaps shouldn't be brought up in such a tense situation. Lucy quickly realizes that Sharon seems to be hinting that Heather's death was more than a simple accident. The girl sensed the doubt in Sharon's words and couldn't help but ask, "Sharon, do you know something we don't? Are you thinking it wasn't an accident?" The doubt in Lucy's voice made Sharon momentarily flustered, but she didn't say anything clearly. Under Lucy's pressure, Sharon had to change the subject. But this only made Lucy more uneasy, wondering if Sharon was hiding something. Daniel, seeing his daughter caught up in uncertainty and doubt, decided to intervene. After taking Lucy to the car to ensure her safety, Daniel turned back to Sharon, his face showing anger. "You have no right to interfere in this, Sharon. They need time and space to deal with their grief," he said, his tone insistent and serious. Daniel emphasized that Sharon needed to keep her distance, at least until everything was clear. Sharon, despite knowing she may have gone too far, still felt a nagging worry. She knew there was something deeper involved in Heather's death, and it wasn't just an accident. But she also knew that she needed to be careful not to hurt those around her any further. Phyllis, always a quick learner and never one to let a secret go unchecked, immediately shared the news of Heather's death with her daughter, Summer, and Chance, the man who had always been there for Summer through thick and thin. Phyllis had been more than just a companion to Summer, but also a mother who had always stood by her daughter, even in the most difficult of situations. But this time, things were much more serious. Heather wasn't just a victim, and Chance knew it. When he heard from Phyllis, Chance immediately called the GCPD to get an update on Heather's autopsy. The sheriff announces that they are conducting a full autopsy to determine the cause of death, and Chance senses that things may not be as simple as they first seem. Meanwhile, at Daniel's penthouse, Summer tries to comfort him in his grief. Daniel has been through a lot lately, and Heather's sudden death has left him devastated. He can't get the image of the woman he loved out of his mind, and that only adds to his fears about what could have happened. Finally, Chance receives the preliminary information from the autopsy report. The initial results are shocking. Heather had been in the water for hours, and most likely the night before. However, the most shocking thing is that Heather did not die from drowning. The report reveals that the cause of death was a blunt force trauma to the back of the head, resulting in instant death. They both know that the truth is much more complicated. Chance tries to remain objective, but can't hide his concern. He suggests that Heather may have accidentally hit her head on something before falling into the water. But will that convince anyone? There's too much left to say. While Chance and Summer try to come up with reasonable guesses, Daniel begins to sink deeper into fear and uncertainty. He can't help but think that someone may have intentionally harmed Heather. His mind is abuzz with questions. Who could have done this? And why target Heather? Everything is getting very confusing. Sharon realizes that she's caught up in a conspiracy she has no control over. Cameron seems to have a plan to frame her, and Daniel is devastated by Heather's death. Meanwhile, Chance is trying to figure out how to solve the mystery surrounding her death, whether or not he'll be reinstated at the GCPD. Can Sharon find a way out of Cameron's machinations? Can Daniel come to terms with the fact that Heather's death was not an accident?